Welcome back, listeners. It's Wednesday in South Carolina. Welcome into the Touchdowns podcast, presented by Harrison Williamson with Cross Country Mortgage. You can contact Harrison at 828-406-3684 for all of your home purchase and refinance needs. Licensed all across the Carolinas, Harrison is your go-to mortgage expert and can be reached via phone or text 828-406-3684. Give him a call, shoot him a text today. Honored to have a guest on today. We didn't have a guest last week for A&M. We got one in today. His name is Mike Uva, former reporter that did some great work in Columbia covering Gamecock athletics, and he is now with Coastal Carolina, and I want to get your title right, Mike. He is the Associate Athletic Director for Communications and Media at Coastal Carolina University. Congratulations on that, Mike, by the way. And I know a lot of Gamecock fans miss your stuff here reporting on the Gamecocks. And also he's known for the famous Uva sandwich at Bojangles, which out there in the ether of the internet, I do have a review of the Uva at Bojangles, and I gave it a 5-star rating. It was fantastic. So
I didn't know where we're going with that. We're giving 5 out of 10. I hear 5. I'm like, all right.
Nah, 5 stars, man. Hey, the proof is on the internet. But welcome into the show, man. How are things going?
No, I appreciate it, fellas, and good to see you. Happy that TD is running up and it's going well. So obviously, my time in Columbia, I know how important businesses are, especially down in that 5 Point area. So very happy to see all the businesses thriving. I know it's been a tough couple of years, and I obviously will not get into the politics side of it. Don't want to get myself in trouble here, but the point being is I'm just very excited for all the businesses that are up and running despite some of the challenges. So happy to see everything that's going on for you, Tom, over at the bar.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. And we are – I'm not going to shy away from it. We're anti-Dick Harpootlian on this podcast.
Yeah, I can't see. I don't want to get myself in trouble. That's the last thing we need. Let's not do that. That's your opinion.
We got the fans hashtagging Dick Poot. So yeah, no love here for him, but appreciate you staying neutral. But let's dive in and talk a little bit about Coastal as a team. I think, for Gamecock fans out there, you see a game like Coastal on the schedule, you kind of chalk it up as a win. They are an in-state school, so there probably is some Gamecock fans that maybe live in the Myrtle Beach area that follow the team or have a connection via family to Coastal. But I'll be honest, I'll speak for myself. I don't know much about this team. I know y'all are 6-4, and so just for the listeners out there, just give us a little overview of Coastal as a team and how the season's gone for them so far.
Yeah, well, how about before we do that, let's discuss a little bit about this game in general and the reason why it's being played this year, because I don't think some people realize this. This game was actually scheduled to be played back in 2020, but as many of us know, right, from that South Carolina season, the SEC decided because of the COVID pandemic to go to 10 conference games. And because of that, Coastal, well, they found themselves as the man out, right? They weren't going to play. Ironically, the person who helped get this deal done and sign that contract to still be played in 2025 was a then Associate Athletic Director, Chance Miller, who is now the AD over at Coastal Carolina. So funny how that works out, huh? So that is why the game is being played this year. It was supposed to be played 5 years ago. Look, I think the big thing is with Coastal, 61 new players this year. I mean, we're seeing it happen throughout college football in general, but especially when we're talking about these group of 5, group of 6 schools, there's so much turnover. There's so much change. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why for us, we started off, a little bit slower, simply because we were still trying to gel. We were still trying to mesh. I mean, the first game of the year was against a Virginia team. Who would have thunk it going into the year that they would be where they are? They've had a phenomenal season. So I think being able to gel and being able to get into the groove that we were able to over the last couple of weeks 5-1 now, 4-1 in our last 5 games now. We've scored 40 plus points these last couple weeks. So it's a team that is slowly coming together. Obviously, it would have been great to keep the winning streak going last week. But certainly looking at this team right now in comparison to where it was a couple weeks ago, it is night and day different.
Yeah, you mentioned 40 points per. I mean, I'm looking. It's 4 weeks in a row y'all've hit 40. We've talked about extensively South Carolina's stronger unit this year is the defense. Do you think this offense can, give our defense some problems?
I mean, we have some talented guys. I think it's going to be a challenge. I mean, our coach was talking about it earlier today, Tim Beck, that look, and you look across the board, obviously, you look at the speed, you look at the size, you look at the talent. Let's just call it for what it is. When you're going up against a team like South Carolina, a team that's in the SEC, obviously it's going to take our best to be able to have some type of success on Saturday. But from an offensive standpoint, yes, we might not necessarily match up in terms of the size and the speed, necessarily, body for body, but there's some good things that our guys bring to the table. I mean, what they've been able to do in that wide receiver room over the last couple of weeks, and that comes with just the whole part of guys gelling, right? And I mentioned, the 61 new players. There were some guys that were back from last year, but there were also a lot of new players. One player in particular who's really picked things up over the last couple of weeks, and I was just talking to our offensive coordinator about him, is Carmelo English. I mean, he has 3 touchdowns over the last couple of weeks, and I think one of the reasons why he's been able to do that is he's starting to feel more comfortable with what they're asking him to do. That's another thing too. New offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. So for even the returning players, this has been a new system for them that they've had to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas, you got any questions for Mike?
Yeah, so Mike, I don't know if you've been tuning into any of the episodes so far this season, but Beck and I have kind of been going back and forth. I'm not going to mince words, against the auto bid for G5 teams.
Mm-hmm.
I like the size of the playoff. I think 12 is the right number. I like that, you know, we're settling the national champion on the field versus in the BCS era where you had teams like a 13-0 Auburn get left out, or back in the day where you're playing the BCS bowls and then essentially newspapers are just crowning the national champion. That's why you have all these seasons where teams are claiming national championships. You can't have 2 national champions in the same year, but if you go back far enough, you find many cases where that was the case. As a group of 5 school, you said you have 61 new players.
Mm-hmm.
What is the team building mentality when you know that even if we do our job and we find the diamond in the rough from the high school level, and then they come here and they play great, they're just going to get essentially taken by the bigger fish. And that's not just a problem with players. As we're going to see from the coaching carousel this offseason, the hot OCs, the hot head coaches at the smaller levels, they're all going to get called up for these vacancies. What is Chance's mentality when y'all are talking about building the program? Do you just embrace the fact that when you have a hot commodity as a coach or a player, they're probably going to get paid to leave, and you embrace that? Or are y'all kind of in a long-term mindset? All right, we need to try to keep everybody home and go about it that way.
So I want to go back to one thing you mentioned about, you're not in favor, and that's fine. I mean, you're probably not the only one, especially when you're talking about SEC fans. And look, even when I was covering the SEC, I felt that, if a group of 5 team could earn that opportunity, I was all for it. It's going to be interesting in a couple of weeks because we're going to be trying to do something, which is try to keep James Madison out, right? Because we're going to be playing James Madison. And ironically for me, I played for Bob Chesney in college, so it's going to be interesting when we line up next week. So you think this week's weird for me going up against South Carolina? Think about next week for me
Right.
with Chesney and playing in his system. But um, that aside, I think the challenging part is this: you want to still be able to have the mindset of bringing in players and developing them, being whether that be 3 years, 4 years, whatever the case may be. As soon as you go in there and you say, okay, hey, we can't necessarily worry about the recruiting aspect of it, and we're just going to worry about the transfer portal. I think you're really gonna it's honestly like going to the casino and literally just putting things on, okay, here, black 32, whatever the case may be. I don't remember, red 32, whatever the case may be. It's been a while. But my point is, like, you're really rolling the dice. You have no idea what you're gonna hit on year after year after year. Now, don't get me wrong. We look at this going from Power Four schools down to where we are with the Group of Six, and everyone's going to be trying to go into the portal in some shape, way, or form. There's gonna be guys moving up from Division Two, Division Three. There's going to be some guys that say, hey, you know what? I want more opportunities to play, and we've seen that with Coastal Carolina with some of the players we've brought in. So it's not just development standpoint of just coming out of height. But I think you can't look at it and say we can only do it one way, right? There's been schools out there that want to just focus still on recruiting and not really use the portal. I don't think you can do that these days. So to answer your question, I don't think there's really anything set in stone necessarily. I think it's a combination of a couple things. I think it's a combination of, okay, what are our needs heading into the off season? That's going to be something that, and I know, those conversations go on throughout the year, that our general manager, Scott Aligo, is going to continue to have with Coach Beck. I know Chance Miller is going to be in those conversations as well, and just trying to figure out, okay, what can we do to be able to take that next step? And it might not necessarily be what the plan was last year. And I mean, we could use this for any team. It's not just the Coastal thing. What you were doing one year, right? I mean, let's bring this back to South Carolina simply because of my time covering it, and you guys obviously can relate to this. You look back a couple of years ago of how South Carolina attacked that offseason and some of the players that they were able to bring through the portal, and it was massive. It was a massive success, right? I mean, you look at what they were able to do and some of the players that they were able to hit on. So I bring that up to say that, okay, hey, if you look at that model, that should be able to work year after year after year, right? Well, that's not necessarily the case. So I think for us at Coastal, especially with the situation that Group of Six schools are in, which is, okay, you're also competing against the Power Four schools trying to come in and take your players. You're trying to retain players. You're trying to do whatever you can. And obviously, let's just call for what it is, even though at Coastal Carolina, we've done an outstanding job of being able to raise some money to be able to help with rev share. It's still going to be a challenge when you're going up against some of these Power Four schools trying to take your players. Not even just Power Four, some Group of Six schools are trying to come in too. So bottom line is, and I know I'm kind of all over the place with it, but that's the point. It's like there's not just one way. And I think that's something that not just schools like Coastal Carolina, but I think even some of the Power Four schools, they're trying to still figure it out. You can't just do it one way. You can't just be a one-trick pony. What happened and what worked the year prior, you can't bank on that and assume it's going to work the following year as well.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I'm curious from the from the Group of Six perspective, because there's all this speculation of, Thomas and I have been arguing about Group of Six getting an auto bid and in the college football playoff, and the powers that be with the SEC and the Big Ten are trying to get auto bids for 4 SEC and 4 Big Ten, and essentially maybe shut out the Group of Six. Is there any? And because it's harder for the group, and it's hard for Group of Six to compete because these bigger schools with bigger budgets are coming in and sniping your players. Is there any interest, like in the Group of Six circles, that we should be the ones to break off and kind of create our own thing, and there's a Group of Six playoff essentially, and then there's the Power Four playoff, and it's a split in college football? Or is the Group of Six clinging to we want to just have one auto bid, and we want to play with the big boys if one of our schools can get in. Any thoughts there?
I've only been here for 2 months, so if they've had some meetings, I certainly haven't been invited to them. These group of six parties. But no, in all seriousness, I think just from my time of being around these coaches and from being around Chance, and then just knowing how some of these other coaches, like I mentioned, Bob Chesney at James Madison, knowing how some of these guys think, they don't want that because by doing that, essentially what you're creating is, I don't know, Division 1.5, really, right? Like you're separating it, and it's not FCS, but it's not FBS. I think the beauty of it is, look, every year is going to be different. I understand we look at some of these matchups sometimes and we say, okay, why was this group of six school even playing this school? I get that. But at the same time, too, let's use Coastal just a couple of years ago. Coastal was, a top 15 team in the country in that 2020 season. Who knows how things would have went if they were in the playoff that year, where they went undefeated in the regular season. I know they lost the bowl game, but the point that I'm bringing up is, I'd like to see things settled on the field. And you know what? Yeah, there's some blowouts, but you know what too? Go back to last year. Indiana, Notre Dame, that's a blowout, right? So I mean, it's so difficult to say. And I know the audience that we're talking to, SEC, I understand that. I totally understand that. But I do think there is something to be said about, hey, look, if you just keep out the group of six schools, what that's going to ultimately do is it's going to create that division. And I always think there's, it's better when you do have some more teams competing for it. We know the gauntlet that's going to be for the SEC. We understand the gauntlet for the Big Ten, right? Even with the ACC, in terms of some of the teams you have to play, like it's a gauntlet to get through the regular season, and then you need to be able to win your turn. I get all that. I understand that. So I understand the frustration from certain conferences where it's like, okay, why aren't we getting more bids, or why don't we have auto bids? Necessarily, why don't we have 4 from the SEC representing us in the playoff? I get that, but and I'm not just saying this because of the situation that I'm in. Going back to even when I was covering South Carolina, I've always felt at least having one. I mean, honestly, if we were going to expand, you can make a case maybe for 2, and then you were able to kind of figure out, okay, because you have different conferences, and each conference is going to have sometimes better year, right? I think that's one of the things that for James Madison, listening to what was said on Tuesday night, is that one of the things that's hurting him, they're saying, is that the Sun Belt's having a down year. Well, I mean, you look at some of the teams that we've played. I mean, we played Virginia. Again, Virginia no one would have thought that they were going to be a top 20 team in the country. ECU, very good team. They had a big win the other night against Memphis. So, I mean, it's all relative. But, the point being is I still would like to see, group of 16 be able to compete and not just be kind of overlooked and kind of in that no man's land of, 1.5, if that makes sense.
And I need to clarify something. I am not opposed.
And I'm not mad at you, Tom. Tom, I'm not mad at you.
5 school being in the field, but I am adamant about it being the top 12 teams. I would like to eliminate the auto bids across the board. I'm talking about, I don't want there to be an auto bid for any of the conference champions. In my opinion, if you win a Power 4 conference, you're probably in the top 12. And in the weird scenario where you're able to win a Power 4 conference and somehow not be a top 12 team, well, then I'm sorry. For however that occurred, I would think that you're still not – I wouldn't have any problem with that team being left out. Now, the problem that would face these group of 5 schools under this scenario is, how do you get a strength of schedule that is strong enough to warrant a top 12 ranking? Well, I'm also, and this is an idea that Beck and I have kicked around. I think it's been said many times by Shane Beamer and multiple coaches that, they would like to be able to scrimmage someone in the spring game or play a preseason game to get a real look at what they have with their team, rather than just having to play yourself. So, my kind of idea is okay, these FCS schools, these schools that rely on the revenue they get by playing these Power Four schools, like South Carolina, we played South Carolina State this year. Whatever
Mhm.
we gave them is probably what funds their athletic department until next season, when they are the sacrificial lamb for whomever they play that year. Play that game as the spring game. Play that game in the preseason. They still get the revenue. It can still be a game that South Carolina fans could attend, and there be, ticket sales for, and you get to bring your family to a game. But that doesn't count. That's not a game during the regular season, and that game can be replaced with a Group of Five school, and in that way, Group of Five schools can get more Power Four non-conference opponents and beef up their schedule. And if they don't take the onus to do that, that's fine. Their record can be better, whatever. But then if their strength of schedule isn't strong enough to get into the top 12, then they're not in the playoff.
No, and look, I'd be all for being able to have, and I've been a big fan in what Shane has said. I know it goes back to even when he was here, his first stint, when he was an assistant, and there's video of him talking about basically what you just mentioned. To me, what's tricky is this: being able to get that money. It's massive. There's no question about
Right.
it. Shoot, if you look at our basketball schedule in the way that it's set up this year, especially, I mean, not just for the women, but for men, there's a lot of games we're playing against bigger programs, and that money is certainly going to help fund us. And it's going to be able to help us compete once we get into conference play. That's the other part of it now too, right? With rev share. So I bring those things up because there's certainly something to be said about that. As far as from an FBS level, though, with, and I keep saying Group of Six just because I can't keep up with all the different conferences. Group of Five, Group of Six, we all know what we're talking about here. But look, if a team's having a phenomenal season, I want to see them have an opportunity at it. I understand that football is not the exact same like basketball, right? We understand these sports are not apples to apples. I totally understand that. But at the same time, too, we've seen David take down Goliath, right? We've seen it happen before. And there's certainly something to be said about some of these teams who are playing the way that they are. Now, I'm not just saying this because of my connection with Chesney. I'm not just saying this because of my connection with the Sun Belt. But if James Madison, if they were to run the table, to me, I feel like they deserve to be in there simply because of what they've been able to do from a body of work standpoint. Having said that, if we're able to beat them, though, in a week, then that would put all those conversations to bed.
Let me ask you this. Do you think, I know you just got there, but have you had any conversations with Chance or anybody that would suggest that Coastal struggles to get these marquee matchups that would help y'all's strength of schedule? Because y'all are a relatively
From a football
good,
standpoint,
from a football standpoint, do you feel that teams dodge y'all because they want the easier, like in the current system, essentially, no disrespect, these Group of Five FCF games on the schedule are bought and paid for wins. It's a bye week without being a bye week. Do you feel because Coastal is more competitive, some of these Power Four schools avoid scheduling y'all because they want the easier win? Like in the scenario that I was painting, it would be these, Coastal's job and JMU's job and the other Group of Five schools that have competitive football programs that want to be a part of the playoff to go out and get these Power Four matchups, have ranked, I know it's hard to project years out, but have these ranked matchups in the non-conference because you know that you may not have any ranked matchups within conference in any given year. So you have to take the foresight to go schedule these tough matchups in the non-conference. Do you feel like Coastal and these other programs are being dodged by Power Four schools when scheduling happens?
well, I'll look at it in a vacuum sense. where it's not just football. I certainly, I mean, we were talking baseball before we hopped on. I mean, I certainly think that's the case with some. I mean, our schedule, I'll put it up there with anyone, especially from a non-conference standpoint, and who we're going up against this year. I mean, we're playing against 9 teams who made the tournament last year. Very competitive teams. I mean, we're going to be going up against Ole Miss. We're going to be playing against Texas. I got to remember off the top, I had Campbell was in there as well. So, I mean, I bring that up to say that from a baseball standpoint, they're doing everything they can. From a basketball standpoint, we're doing everything we can to be able to be competitive, to be able to help from within. So, bringing it to football now, look, I think every school's different in how they're going to approach it and how they're going to answer that question. Do I feel like that's the case with some schools? Absolutely. I truly do. Especially when you look back at the history of Coastal and where things were, 5 years ago and things were rolling, right? When we're trying to be able to get that back, right? We're trying to be able to bring that back and be able to keep that going. But, just looking at the next couple of years, the West Virginia game that we have next year, the reason why that happened is because our former president for Coastal Carolina, he's up there now in West Virginia.
Okay.
When Alabama and West Virginia, when that game got dropped, West Virginia reached out immediately and scheduled a game with us for next year. So I bring that up because now with how, like the SEC and how things are being shifted around in terms of how conference games are played, how much does that impact schools like Coastal Carolina?
Right.
I mean, to your point, going back to the whole spring game and being able to generate some money for some of these smaller schools, which I think is great. I've always been a big fan when you see these, whether it be South Carolina playing a school like us, whether it be, maybe I'm making this up, but just like Clemson playing the Citadel. I've been a big fan of when schools keep the money in state, because I think it's beneficial to everybody in state. It's not just going to be beneficial for us at Coastal. It's going to be beneficial for South Carolina. It's going to be beneficial for Clemson. And the reason why is from a recruiting standpoint, that money's staying in the state. Now, can that help a school like Coastal to be able to go out and compete against a school like South Carolina in some shape, way, or form? Of course it can, right? Depending on what the sport is. I know from a baseball standpoint, South Carolina doesn't play Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina for the last couple of years, and they'll play another 2 this year. They'll play against Clemson. Now, those games are a little bit different than what we're talking about here with the money that gets generated with football and in terms of Coastal getting paid for it. But I would like to see, these group of 5 schools still have the opportunity to play, because I mean, just listening to our guys, they're excited this week. I mean, for a lot of them, this is going to be the biggest stadium that they ever have played in before. And again, and I say this with all due respect, and I think people get this because of obviously the time I spent with covering the Gamecocks, my relationship with Shane Beamer. It's been a tough year, even if the crowd's not the typical crowd that we see or are used to seeing, we know it's still going to produce more people than, the majority of the players here have seen. I mean, we got to play Virginia earlier in the year, and I believe that was around 50,000. That was before I started up, so I think it was around that mark. I mean, I'm expecting more than that on Saturday, and there's the guys like Luke Doty of the world and the guys that deserve certainly to be sent off the right way, and I'm sure that crowd will be rowdy, and our guys understand that. So I think that's the other part of it too that I know the majority of people probably don't care about, but there is something to be said about that part of it too, is just being able to have that opportunity to play in an SEC stadium, be able to play in front of that many people, be able to play on the SEC network. I mean, our players are certainly fired up for it.
Yeah. No, it definitely, the in-state thing is a huge thing, Mike, that I am a proponent of. And when we were laying out these hypotheticals of how, what we would do, because we're realizing college football and college athletics are evolving, and they're not going back to the old way. So like, as they evolve, and from fans that, I mean, we grew up in Greenville, South Carolina. We didn't grow up watching the NFL, or we watched it, but we didn't have a favorite team. Like, we watched college football every Saturday. South Carolina, SEC game on CBS at 3:30, the South Carolina game, and the hate watch for Clemson. That's the Saturday agenda every Saturday growing up. And so as fans of college football, seeing where it's going, and yeah, you're going to have people complaining about the change, but where we're trying to, how can we make it better with the system that we have in place? And that's probably something we're going to talk about on this podcast a lot, going forward. And it still needs to involve, I'm the G5, G6 advocate of this duo. And I still, there's plenty of reasons why, we'll probably argue about that when we start talking about the college football playoff rankings later in this episode after you drop off. But a couple I don't know if Thomas, if you had any more football related questions or asking about the game Saturday to Mike. I just had a couple fun questions I wanted to ask him before we get it. We're at 30 minutes, so
I think
of your time, Mike.
My burning questions he covered.
Okay.
I know. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not trying to dance around these questions, but obviously I still have to be corporate, Mike, because I joke around with guys like Wes Mitchell and Chris Clark. It's tough because you're exposed to different things now on this side that as a reporter you were trying to chase down for the last decade plus. So it is interesting now when you see some of these things. So, hopefully I was able to answer some of those questions without tiptoeing around. I don't want to give you guys the corporate BS line. But at the same time too, obviously I want to continue to have a job the next day without showing everything that's going on in the kitchen.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Well, we're going to get you out on a couple fun questions, Mike. First, talk about the concessions at Coastal, how y'all are giving them away for free. How has that gone this season? Have you gotten feedback inside the athletic department? I thought that was a wild idea, and I'm curious to know how it's been going.
No, it's been incredible. I want to say that we've had 4 of our top 10 biggest crowds this year, including, I want to say, the largest when I wasn't here for the Charleston Southern game. And the reason why that came about is because of Chance Miller. And what some people may remember in Gamecock land is that Chance did this years prior in December for basketball games. And he wanted to see the impact it could have, because let's call it for what it is. You have non-conference games, right? Other than the Clemson game, depending on who you have coming in there, it's not always going to move the needle in December. You have the students going back. So what is one way you can help bring people to the game, especially the men's games, right? Especially during a time where things were up and down, right? You were in a transition, I believe. I think that may have been Lamont's first year, if I'm not mistaken. You can do stuff like that. And what he saw was an increase in attendance. Now, people might say, like, oh, you're able to make your money up. Well, just think about this, right? You're able to bring more people. So from a ticket standpoint, you're going to be able to generate more money there. And guess what happens when there's more people there? It's probably going to be more people that are going to go grab a beer or wine, whatever the case may be. And you're going to be able to make some money from that as well. So in terms of being able to generate money, it certainly has helped the school. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the exact numbers because, number one, I don't know them. But number two, I don't want to get myself in trouble. But it has certainly made an impact. I mean, obviously, from a national standpoint, it's been not just covered locally. I mean, it's made Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. Yeah. I mean, it's been a national broadcast.
Yeah, it's wild.
Out loud. So it's been pretty cool. But again, it goes back to the whole idea of what Chance is trying to do. And that's one of the reasons why myself and so many others, whether it be people that were working for him and with him at South Carolina or got to know him during their time, like with me, obviously, right, with covering the Gamecocks. It's the reason why we want to work for the guy is because the guy is not a cookie cutter thinker. He thinks outside the box. He wants to win more than anything in the world. I can tell you that one. There's not a more competitive person I've been around than Chance. But he also wants fans every time they go to the arena to feel like the game is just a small part of it. He knows at the end of the day, he can only control so much in terms of the wins and losses, right? Yeah, you hire a coach, you put the pieces in place, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you're talking about, your livelihoods being dictated between 18 and 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds, right? So you don't know what you're going to get every day in terms of a game, but from a entertainment standpoint, you can control those things. And obviously one of the big things we've done this year is the concessions. It's been big, and there's been a million other things that we've done this year that have gone viral. And again, it goes back to just chances outside of the box thinking.
Yeah, the jerseys too, right? Didn't y'all have the glow in the dark jerseys? Yeah, y'all have been doing. Yeah, it's some cool stuff. That I've definitely, I mean, I've noticed it, and like you said, it's been on national news, but definitely
Medieval
up
Times.
here.
We had a Medieval Times halftime show that night. I mean, the only thing that was missing, we were going to have the horses there to joust, but unfortunately, horses on turf when they're running, it's not like dirt, right? So a horse probably would have rolled an ankle. Can't do that. But
Yeah,
you've had that. I mean, I'm trying to think of the other things because there's been some things that I wasn't here for necessarily. The jerseys, of course, the glow in the dark jerseys, those things were big. I mean, that was cool. They showed them on Sports Center. We went up there and they showed them. I mean, it's been really cool just the different things that they've been doing here, you know.
yeah. No, that's awesome. It really has made waves in the news. But going to get you out of here on this question. Favorite memory covering the Gamecocks?
Oh, favorite memory covering the Gamecocks. I have two. The first would be covering the World Series because that was cool. I think it was like 6 months after my grandfather passed away. So being able to be in Fenway Park covering my first World Series and getting to see something that had never been done and still has not been done, which is you had the ALCS MVP and the World Series MVP from the same school in the same year. That's never happened. Never happened in the 100 plus year history. So I think that was really cool. The other one though would have been my the Final Four run between men and women's basketball, and I just remember being outside, running out of Village Idiot, and being at the water fountain, being at the fountain, and reporting. And I have like two college kids holding my ankles so I wouldn't fall back into the water. Um, that was awesome because at that point it was just like I'd only been there for less than a year. I really didn't know anything about South Carolina. I went to a small Division II school. So to see that, I'm just like, holy cow, like this is big time college athletic experience. Like this is stuff that feels like it's right out of a movie. And obviously it was an incredible moment. As you guys know, it was just women would play one day, men would play the next. All right, both win. All right, next round. I mean, so it was it was a cool experience to be able to see both those teams go on. I'm sure I'm not the only one that would say this. I know Thornwell has told me this many times before. If he doesn't get sick, I'm convinced they win it all, or at least they make it to the championship to play North Carolina. But man, what a fun run that was.
Yeah, the live shot of you at Village when when you're like trying to talk and the beer's like flying in your mouth is an all timer.
Yeah, that was fun. I'm convinced. I'm convinced that's what helped win me my first award for sports casting. I mean, you see a guy get beer poured on his face, and you're just like, I'm covered in beer. What a night! I mean, they're probably just like that poor guy. You know what? Let's
Yeah,
just give him the award.
yeah. No, that's awesome, man. Well, yeah, I really appreciate you coming on
Thanks,
and
Mike.
chopping it up with us, taking
I
the time
appreciate
and
you guys.
good insights. And we wish, except for Saturday, we wish Coastal the best of luck going forward, and know that you and Chance and the whole team that y'all have assembled down there will do great things.
No, I appreciate it. I'm wishing you guys nothing but the best. Definitely gonna have to check out touchdowns at some point. But yeah, it'll be weird. I had someone text me over there from the building today, and they're just like, "Have you been back on the field since you got engaged there?" And I said, "I haven't. I've been back for 2 games. I was back for the Kentucky game, and I was back for the Alabama game during our bye weeks, but haven't been back on the field." So, yeah, when I walk off the bus, if I avoid anyone throwing batteries at me, babies, of course, as we all know, South Carolina fans throw babies off the top of the stadium,
That's right.
apparently. Um, so as long as I can dodge that, it'll be a cool feeling once we get on the field. And yeah, it's starting to feel more real as we get closer and closer to Saturday.
Yeah, man. It's going to be a fun one. Appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, shout out to Mike Uva for coming on and chopping it up with us, talking a little bit about the game Saturday, a lot of group of five, and just good perspective from a guy who worked as a reporter, obviously for the Gamecocks and our athletic program, and now he's doing big things in the administration side of things down at Coastal. So appreciate Mike coming on and chopping it up. That was good. Any other final thoughts on the game, Thomas? Obviously, this is, again, we don't want to write off Coastal, and this year has gone bad as it could. But I think I think obviously this is why we schedule.
I mean, yeah. So we are 24-point favorites, and the over/under is in the 50s, which, I mean, Coastal has scored 40 points a game for the past few games, so maybe that is influencing the over/under a tad. But the fact that we are more than 3 touchdown favorites, I know that Vegas's lines are designed to balance out the betting, and it's not necessarily a prediction of what will happen. Whoever was in charge of setting the line for this game, they arrived at the number 24, and they felt that number was the best way to have people put some of their money on Coastal and not just on us. But yeah, it's a game where if Beamer loses this game, he's dead. I mean, really, I think a lot of people want him gone if he doesn't beat Clemson, myself included. But it goes without saying that we have to beat Coastal. So it's not something that I really want to or feel like we need to spend a lot of time on. You have to win. If you win handedly, that's better. But even if we beat him 100-0, that only gets you so much good grit. Like, we're at the point in the season where we're not bowl eligible, even if we went out. The fans that are upset are going to remain upset. So we could beat them 1,000-0, and I don't think it really changes much.
Yeah, we'll beat them by more than 24. I'll tell you that much. We'll talk about it on the DB Blitz, but I agree. It's just win the game, look good, get yourself right, and the again the season hinges on the Pickens Tech game. But let's talk a little bit about so for the remainder of the show, we want to hit on college football playoff rankings, DB Blitz, and the Court Cox chatter. So let's dive into the rankings. I know this is something we've discussed, and it's just going to continue to be a topic. I still just have a problem with the committee. I am now I don't know if I said it last week, but I'm starting to get radical in that we should just abolish the college football playoff selection committee as a whole and completely overhaul how the rankings are done. There is a ton of chat. Obviously, this is what it does. It creates chatter, and it pisses off a lot of fan bases, and so they get up in arms about the rankings. Just want to put the Miami Notre Dame thing. Obviously, that's a topic, and again, fuck Miami and fuck Notre Dame. I don't have any allegiance to either of those schools, and I just want to put something in perspective, though, with the inconsistency of how the committee's ranking. And if you look at last year, you had, and ultimately neither of these teams made the college football playoffs, so don't jump down my throat, everyone out there. I'm just using it as an example to show the inconsistency of the committee. And when you look at South Carolina versus Alabama last year, Bama beat South Carolina in a 2-point game in Tuscaloosa. And from that moment, South Carolina doesn't lose again. Now, we faced 4 common opponents: LSU, Missouri, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma. We got hosed by LSU, and we lost to them, so we'll just count that as a loss. But we got hosed in that game, and everyone saw it. And then we beat the other 3 common opponents, and we didn't beat the shit out of Missouri, but we beat the shit out of Oklahoma, and we beat the shit out of Vandy. Alabama beat the shit out of Missouri and beat the shit out of LSU, but got beat by Vandy and beat by Oklahoma. And they got beat the second to last week of the season. So everyone's talking about, oh, well, Miami lost, or excuse me, Notre Dame lost to Miami early in the season, and now they're a different team. But last year, when Alabama had lost to Oklahoma on the second to last week of the season, meanwhile, we're running off a 6-game winning streak, they're not willing to put us above Alabama because of the head-to-head. So it's just, again, it's the lack of consistency from the committee that just has me up in arms. And 12-team, group of 5, auto bid, conference champion auto bid, however you want to reform it, I think the committee needs to be eliminated. And it needs to be, if we want to have human polls, use a combination. You can create a new committee and just don't have a bunch of fucking morons on it that don't watch college football. Have some sense in building out the committee, but they're weighted way down, and I know the AP poll isn't great, but use the human coaches poll, AP poll, and college football playoff rankings as the human side of it, and then use the BCS rankings and weight it together. And that's how
I don't think that humans need to be involved, because if you're using the coaches poll, it's long been on record that the head coach is not voting in the coaches poll. It is literally a graduate assistant most of the time. And I don't think that a team that is actively on the bubble should have a vote in the rankings, because they can just vote the team that is ahead of them down and themselves up. By the same token, the Associated Press should not influence it, because there have been multiple examples of reporters saying that they don't watch the games and they created their poll in a way that is not satisfactory. And I agree with you. I don't think that the current committee is doing a good job at all. And you can poke holes in last year's head-to-head matchups versus this year's. You can poke holes in a lot of different things. I like the number 12. I think 12 is the right amount. I know that there are some people that think that it is too inflated at 12. I don't think that. I would be perfectly fine with there being no auto bids, and we just take the old BCS computer rankings, and the top 12 of the BCS are in the field. The seeding is done by the BCS, and then it's reseeded each round. So if there's an upset, like it benefits you to be number 1. So like if you're the number 1 team, you get a bye. But if the 12 seed upsets the 8 seed in round 1, you get
5 seed,
whatever. You get to play the lowest seed available in round 2. I think that is the cleanest, simplest way, because yes, if humans are involved, they are going to continue to fuck it up. And I know that there were problems with the BCS rankings as well, and some of these computer rankings that get spit out don't weigh head-to-head enough either. And there will always be an issue. But I think that if you just take the top 12 BCS and you put them in a playoff and you settle it on the field, that should almost eliminate all of the problems that we're currently facing. But I do want to throw another jab in towards the group of 5, because if anyone has a problem with Notre Dame being in the top 12 right now, that is literally just echoing my problem with the group of five being it. Like if you're someone who thinks that Notre Dame is ranked too high, and I'm not talking about just between them and Miami. Yes, I think it's crazy that Notre Dame is 5 spots ahead of Miami with the same record when Miami has the head-to-head. But if you are someone who thinks that Notre Dame should not be in the top 10 based off of their resume, then how can you think that a group of 5 school should be in the field of 12?
But that's the thing is Notre Dame gets in on the golden helmet and they play us. And if you want to say that they play basically a group of 5, the group of 5 never gets a chance.
Well,
but Notre Dame does. That's some bullshit.
Well, in my argument, I'm saying let's exclude Notre Dame too. Let's put the fire to their feet to schedule more aggressively as well. I'm not saying I want Notre Dame in and I want the group of 5 out. I want us to do a better job of picking the top 12 best teams.
But and also, if scheduling metrics are created by humans too. That is an imperfect system. Scheduling metrics. They're not. That is like, dude. I mean, Tennessee and Missouri are still ranked, and they haven't beaten anyone. They've beaten 0 ranked teams. They've beaten the only teams they've beaten are a combined like 42 and 80.
Right.
And those are 2 teams that are propping up Alabama's schedule.
Right. And I mean,
so it's an imperfect system. That's created by humans and bias. And so it's hard for
preseason rankings will never go away because preseason rankings are how they, market and push the week 1 games and the week 2 games and the week 3 games. And, the reason that the college football rankings come out later in the season, which I like, is because then there's a sample size on the field. But they are influenced and corrupted by the preseason rankings because if they didn't rank teams preseason, you couldn't have a ranked primetime matchup, and TV wants that. So that's not going anywhere. And I know that strength of resume and strength of record metrics are corrupted by humans as well. Yeah, I mean, we're in a difficult situation. And it's something that needs to be continued to be refined. I don't know if, a lot of people say, well, what's the Vegas power ranking based off of neutral field? Yeah. Right. And I don't know if that's the answer either. Like, I don't know if that's what I want. I do know I'm adamantly against auto bids. And I think that there is a way that you can strong arm teams who are not in a conference like Notre Dame or teams that are in a conference but find themselves on the lucky side of conference scheduling. Take A&M, for example. They have, through no fault of their own, but just the way things have shaken out, played like 7 out of the bottom 8 SEC teams this year. But they did schedule Notre Dame in the non-conference, and they won that game. So I kind of want A&M to be rewarded for that. And I mean, they're third right now. If they win out, they're going to have a bye. But I guess I say all that to say, like, if we don't reward teams for trying to schedule more aggressively or punish teams that have a weak schedule, then we're just going to continue to get these schools that walk their way through a weak cupcake schedule, but they have a strong brand, get in the field every year. And my argument against the group of 5 auto bid, I also I was saying fuck Notre Dame last year, and I'm saying fuck Notre Dame this year too. I hope Notre Dame does get left out somehow. But at this point, they're
not getting left out. They play they're going to beat the hell out of Syracuse and who I can't remember who else they play. BC maybe. But the gist of it is, though, like, the group of 5, I get it. It's weaker per se, but for me, the fix to preseason rankings is if you're not every opening weekend every year should be interconference play, SEC Big 10 Challenge, ACC Big 12 Challenge, SEC ACC Challenge. You hype the matchups that way by conferences clashing. You don't hype it by number 3s playing number 7. You hype it because basically what you have to create is in college football, and I think, again, we're going to probably have many episodes of talking about this in the off season, but like you have to me, like auto bids matter because going and like winning your conference is doing it on the field. No person in a suit in Grapevine, Texas can say, oh, well, you actually did it on the field. You won your conference on the field.
Here's my counterpoint to that.
In your conference.
Here is my counterpoint to that.
And I get it, weaker conferences, but like,
but not even that. Well, not even that. Duke is still technically eligible to win the ACC. Duke has lost to Connecticut. Duke has lost to Tulane. And I think Duke lost to an ACC school, but it didn't count against their conference record. So if Duke wins out and wins the ACC, they could get the ACC auto bid as an 8-4 team with losses to Tulane.
But they're going to be ranked behind the Group of 5 champions, so the Group of 5 will get 2. What
if the highest ranked Group of 5 schools? What if Coastal upsets JMU? I'm saying. Yes, it's very unlikely and uncommon, and it won't happen more than once a decade, but auto bids always leave the door open for a team that is not one of the 12 best teams to get into the field. And I don't care if
again, yeah, I'm not saying Duke's a top 12 team, but that is subjective. It's this bullshit 12 best teams is just a bunch of people arguing in a circle. Like, it's not like 12 best teams. You can never define that. You can never define
that. You can definitively say that Duke is not a top 12 team in the country this year?
This year, yes, I can say that.
But they can still get in.
But if they win, that's what I'm saying. That's how the cards fall this year.
I'm saying I don't want that to be an option for how the cards can fall. We can get better at how we pick the top 12 teams. I'm not pushing back on that. There should be committee reform, strength of schedule reform, a better way of selecting the top 12. But I don't think that there should be this mechanism where a team that is without question not a top 12 team gets into the 12-team playoff. I think 12 is the right number, but I only think it's the right number if it is actually the teams that we believe are the top 12 teams in the country. That is what I'm saying.
Right, but that is, yeah, and when there's no auto bids, that's going to be completely subjective. Like, you can, at least winning a conference is a tangible goal that every team can set at the beginning of the year. Hey, if we win our conference, we're in the playoff. Like, that is a actual thing that can be accomplished on the field of play at the beginning of the season for every single team. Every single team in the country. Like, this bullshit of like, well, all the Texas fans are crying because, well, we shouldn't have scheduled Ohio State because if we scheduled Texas State and we won and we'd be 10-2, and it's like, no, y'all look like shit all year. Y'all don't deserve anything. But then there's narratives and creation of all this shit that doesn't have anything to do with the results on the field.
Why are you so against a 9-3 or a 10-2 Texas team getting in, but you wouldn't be against an 8-4 Duke team getting in?
Because they won their conference. That is the only thing I'm saying.
They're not good. and it's not a good conference. Okay, I'm saying neither of them should get in because neither of them are top 12 teams.
That's what you get. You ask for expansion, and this is what you get. You
Ross
get
is
teams that aren't good.
Mike's not picking us up. We gotta stop yelling. But dude, we're arguing the same thing in just different ways. Why do you want a bad team to get in that won their conference? I'm saying I don't want bad teams in the top 12. I don't want bad teams getting in.
Bro.
Let's move on to the DB. Well, actually, we got to touch on it. We're an hour in. We got to do the DB Blitz, but we have to. The first major domino in the coaching carousel has fallen. Virginia Tech has hired James Franklin. I think that's a huge hire for them. I'll let you go first. What do you think the expectations for James Franklin are at Virginia Tech? What would you consider to be him succeeding at Virginia Tech?
I think it's an awesome hire. I think he's going to do well. He is going to be able to recruit similar regions that he recruited at Penn State, and the relationships with high school coaches and programs that he built at Penn State. He's going to be able to feed from that funnel. I think he'll get some kids from Penn State to transfer with him to Virginia Tech, so he can start off on he's not starting off with a deficit of talent. And the ACC is the ACC is super winnable. And yes, I get it. He struggled to win the big one, but really he just struggled to beat Ohio State and Michigan. That's all it was, the big one. He just had to play them every year for 10 years. And typically they're in the top 10, and typically they were better than Penn State. And he just couldn't get over that hump, but he's not going to have that problem in the ACC. And let
me ask you this. If he makes Virginia Tech what Penn State has been under him, but they do not win a championship, do you see that as he succeeded at Virginia Tech, or I'm sure Virginia.
Oh yeah, I think Virginia Tech. Pretty much that was what
Tech
Frank Beamer did.
Tech fans might be happy with that, but I'm sure James Franklin isn't going there to just repeat what he's already done. He wants to win it all.
Yeah, I'm sure he wants to win it all, but I think from a Virginia Tech perspective, you had Frank Beamer, who had a lot of success there, but he never won a national championship. He got to one. But basically, Frank Beamer was just a solid program, and he won 9, 10, 11 games every year.
They won 10 games in a row. They won 10 games 10 years in a row.
Right. He was just the model of consistent. He was James Franklin. He was that's what James Franklin did at Penn State. He won 10 games every year, it seems like, and he just couldn't get the big one. But, yeah, I think he will have – and the thing is, now it's the way the playoffs currently set up, if the playoff doesn't change, he will have Virginia Tech in the playoff within his first 3 or 4 years. They'll be super competitive in the ACC next year, in my opinion.
I have it on good authority that his hiring has exploded their recruiting. I don't know what I'm allowed to say, so I'm not going to give any more detail than that. But I know for a fact that his hiring has already made a big ripple effect on that program. I am super curious to see how this plays out, because I am kind of the opinion that it takes everything in terms of the right coach, the right place, investment, and luck to win. And I think that James Franklin is a good coach. And he did things at Vanderbilt that had not been done there and weren't done there again until just recently under Clark Lee. But I kind of always attributed his success at Penn State to the infrastructure of Penn State. And so I will be curious to see what, we can go back and forth about which brand we think is stronger between Penn State and Virginia Tech on another episode where we have more time. But I know for a fact that the infrastructure at Virginia Tech is not what the infrastructure at Penn State is. I would say I've actually also been told that South Carolina is really ahead of Virginia Tech as of today from a football recruiting standpoint. Maybe Virginia Tech goes all in now that they have James Franklin, and so they're able to catch up.
I think that's what they're doing.
But and if that's the case, like, how frustrating is that for the two coaches that they just had? Well, why wouldn't y'all go all in on us? Because in my opinion, it takes all of it. And why would we expect as South Carolina fans, Shane Beamer or whoever our coach is, to be able to beat Kirby Smart at Georgia or Kalen DeBoer at Alabama or Ryan Day at Ohio State if they aren't given the same resources? So I'll be super interested to see how quick the turnaround is at Virginia Tech, or if Franklin does hit a ceiling and has to leapfrog to a different program again.
Yeah, no, I think he'll be successful, but yeah, we'll talk more about that as the coaching carousel evolves. DB Blitz time. As always, the DB Blitz is sponsored by Hughley Insurance. Austin and Greer are your guys for home and auto insurance needs. Go visit HughleyInsurance.com to check them out. Their phone number is listed. Give them a call and get situated with any of your home and auto needs from Hughley Insurance. And as always, Hughley Insurance, you can bet on them. And you can also bet on these games from me. I'm taking the crown this week and getting into pole position for the first time this year. Throw those picks up, and I'm surging towards 500 to end the year. That's the goal of mine. So I have Duke minus 6.5. We're just talking about Duke. They are playing UNC. And Bill Belichick was at an adult cheerleading competition as of last night. I think the pictures came out. I mean, with wifey, and so I'm just obviously we haven't been taking UNC seriously this whole year. Duke is not a great team, but they got a nice quarterback. They got a solid offense. I think he still leads the country in passing. Duke's quarterback. If not, he's in the top 5 or top 10. UNC is a joke, and they've won a couple games, but like I said, Belichick out at the adult cheerleading competition with wifey. I think Duke is gonna. It's a rivalry game. Like I know they're basketball schools, but I think Duke's going to lay it on them and would love to embarrass Belichick. Georgia Tech minus 2.5. This is a must-win game for Georgia Tech. Obviously, they are still vying for the ACC title. They're right there on the fringe of the college football playoff, but obviously can move up. They have the big rivalry game with Georgia next week, but I think this is the week where they can take care of business, go ahead and get into the ACC title game, and then they're kind of playing with house money against Georgia, because I think if they win this weekend, beat Georgia, I think they'll get in as an at-large, even losing the ACC title game. And for anyone who wants to boo-hoo on that, if they beat Georgia, I mean, Alabama's getting propped up by beating Georgia. So if Georgia Tech does that too, there's no reason that they shouldn't get treated the same way, but we'll see. But this is a must-win. They're playing Pitt, and Pitt just got dog-walked by Notre Dame. They might not be as good as people say. It's going to be interesting because literally it's funny because Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami, 3 teams that are, 2 are in the ACC. Notre Dame has, ACC ties, I guess you could say, and play a bunch of ACC teams. But those 3 teams are Pitt's last 3 games. And so when Notre Dame played them, they were ranked. It was game day. Pitt's going to end up, if all 3 of these teams end up just beating the hell out of Pitt, that's going to be a huge topic of conversation. Common opponent in the month of November. It's not like Miami played them in September and Georgia Tech played them in November. Notre Dame played them in October. So that'll be interesting, but I think Georgia Tech must win. I just trust Haynes King. I think he's a dog. He's just a beast. I love him at quarterback. I think he should have more Heisman buzz than he does, but Georgia Tech minus 2.5. BYU, another team that is in must-win mode. They're on the road at Cincinnati. Cincinnati was also a team that was in the top 25 before losing this past weekend. But this is a must-win for BYU. They're gonna make I think if they win this game, they're in the Big 12 championship and to play Texas Tech. Obviously, they're still vying for an at-large. They have the the head-to-head over Utah, who's right behind them in the college football playoff rankings. So BYU, impressive quarterback. I expect them to win this game in a must-win. South Carolina minus 24. I think the Cox. We talked to Mike, and Coastal has put up some points in recent games, and there could be some potential trouble, but I really like our defense to have, after a bad second half against Texas A&M, to have a great game, a good game plan, and I think this is a get-right game. I think we're going to come out, play well, try and put on a really good show. It's not going to get the bad taste out of the fans' mouth, but you're going to attempt to, and just hopefully turn out a really good game against a team you should beat, and you should beat handedly, and have some momentum going into the Clemson game. And then my last one, Georgia minus 43.5. Funny stat, Kirby Smart is 0-15 as a 38-point or more favorite at Georgia. He never beats the shit out of teams. I don't know why that is, but that was a pretty wild stat that I saw, and streaks are meant to be broken. Charlotte, I called them the worst college football team in the country earlier in the season on one of our episodes. I don't know that they're that much improved. I know Georgia's got bigger dreams, and they're probably going to have their backups in, but I think their backups should beat Charlotte by 40. So I think Georgia might hang 60, and I don't see Charlotte scoring more than 10 points. So I'm going to take UGA to cover this and give Kirby Smart his first win as a huge
win against the spread. He beats those teams. He doesn't cover.
Correct. That's what I meant. Did I say? Yeah, he's 0-15 against the spread as a Correct. 38 or more favorite. Yeah, so that streak will be broken.
All right, throw mine up. So I'm also on Tech, so I won't beat a dead horse. I think you covered it. I got JMU minus 13.5. I had them last week, or they're over against App State, and they scored 55 points, killed them. They're trying to get a playoff spot, so I think that they will have to get the style points. I took the under in the Georgia-Charlotte game because I'm also aware that Kirby Smart does not cover these large spreads. And essentially what I'm betting on is that Charlotte will get shut out. I think that we could potentially both cover, but I think that Charlotte will score no points and Georgia will beat them soundly, but Kirby won't really twist the knife. I also took the under in the Michigan State Iowa game. Don't know much about either team other than the fact that the Michigan State fans are unhappy with their head coach. Iowa has a good offense, or excuse me, a good defense and a bad offense. And I took the under in the Rutgers-Ohio State game. This is another game where I just think that Ohio State might shut them out. I think that they'll kill them, but I don't think that they're going to run it. They've been kind of happy to take their time and milk the clock and not really do too much, So I think that Ohio State might beat them 50-0, but the under hits, and hopefully, I know knowing unders aren't fun to bet, but hopefully that gets me on the right track.
Yeah, I see you're trying to bet some totals, switch up the mojo.
Well, there also aren't that many good games this week, so I don't like to take large spreads one way or the other, and there just aren't that many competitive games, so I went with totals this week.
Yeah, well, maybe you could tell my slate if you want to go 5-0, but let's talk Court Cox chatter presented by Cajun Cousins. Cajun Cousins, family over everything. They are bringing Louisiana style and flavors to the Carolinas. These guys do awesome events, jambalayas, low country boils. They come to you, great for corporate events or birthday parties, whatever you're celebrating. These guys can hook it up with some great food. They also have merch and hot sauce on their website, so go visit CajunCousins.com and get you some pepper sauce, because I put that shit on everything, and it ain't Frank's Red Hot. It's some good stuff from the Cajun Cousins boys. Shout out to them. But talking Gamecock basketball, these guys, we talked comeback win against Southern Miss at home. That was awesome. We took care of business last night against Radford. This team is only going to get better, I think. We're doing some good things. Eli Ellis, again, he's a spark plug off the bench. We have Michi Johnson back. And I'm really excited about this team. Some of the big bodies on the wing, and we got shooters everywhere. And I think I saw a stat. We scored 80 points in every game for the first time in 5 years. It's something crazy. And so that's always a good sign. We got a big game on Friday, my birthday actually, against Butler. It's a neutral site, so that game is not in Columbia. It's also not in Indiana. It's at the Greenbrier in West Virginia.
Would that be Q1 or Q2?
I think Butler would be because it's neutral. So I don't know what Butler's RPI is.
Stashing a Q1 win in non-conference would be massive.
Yeah, the net ratings. They don't use RPI anymore. But I'm not sure where to find those. But hey, it's a big game. Butler's a solid squad. They're all, they always have. They have a good, obviously, history and are always competitive in men's basketball. Let's look at what they've done so far this year. Looks like that. Yeah, they lost to SMU, 87-85. So this would be a quad 2.
But they could potentially become quad 1 if they win after we play them.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a big game. I mean, a big momentum game, and then so we play. It looks like this would have been a fun. We should have had this on our radar. go up to the Greenbrier and play golf and watch some Gamecock basketball. I mean, we need to call someone. Shit. But yeah, any Gamecocks making the trip, that would be a hell of a trip. Gamecocks on Friday afternoon at the Greenbrier, play some golf Saturday, then we play Northwestern on Sunday. That'd be a nice little trip for Gamecock fans. But yeah, no, this is a big weekend for Gamecock basketball to get some neutral site wins against good teams, and then come home and play Charleston Southern. Then we got Virginia Tech in the ACC SEC Challenge. That's a home game on Tuesday, December 2nd. And then we get into some, Stetson, Citadel, South Carolina State, Albany, home games against lower tier teams. But sandwiched in between that is at Clemson on Tuesday, December 16th. So I might try and go to that game, especially if we beat them in football. So we'll be talking more Gamecock basketball, obviously, as we get in, kind of get out of football season and get more into basketball and especially, into the new year with conference play starting. But we will be talking Gamecock basketball for all those listeners out there who think we're going to shut this thing off after football season. We're going to keep it going year-round basketball season. We'll talk baseball a little bit as well, and but then we'll always be talking the relevant college football landscape, recruiting, things like that. So should be fun, and looking forward to Gamecock basketball progressing this season. So that's going to be it. Subscribe to our YouTube. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter.
We're going to have a special sign-off tonight, BD. Dad wants to give some words. I don't know.
Some words of wisdom. Let's hear them.
Not words of wisdom, guys. Mike Lowry, my good Clemson friend, asked all the Carolina fans to search their couches for pennies. Send them to the Clemson Athletic Department to help Dabu pay his fine. Thank you, Mr. Cox.
What do you get fined for? Oh, for criticizing the refs?
So he's going to pay the fine.
Okay.
There you go. Well, that's a wrap on this episode.
I don't know if anyone made it to the end of this hour and 20-minute episode, but we have a big-time guest for the Clemson preview. Both sides will be interested in it.
Big-time guest. He is orange, but that's all we can say.
Go Cox.
That's a wrap on this episode. Again, subscribe, like, comment, send us questions, engage with us on social media. We love hearing from y'all. And that's going to be a wrap on this episode. As always, go Cox.
Go Cox.